It is a beautiful day at the park.
I am standing 20 feet away from that tree, but I wonder how tall that tree is.
SOHCAHTOA.
Wait, what?
2 hours later.
While walking home from the park.
How can I find how tall one of those skyscrapers is without using the internet?
SOHCAHTOA.
What does that even mean? How can I use SOHCAHTOA to find out how tall the building is?
SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. What does this mean? This isn't even a word. Well, my friends, this is a right angle triangle. But wait, what does a right angle triangle have to do with SOHCAHTOA? Let me tell you about it. Here's another right angle triangle. This is called a right angle triangle because one of these angles measures 90 degrees. But what does SOHCAHTOA have to do with this right angle triangle? Well, SOHCAHTOA defines 3 ratios that exist within this right angle triangle. But before we define these ratios, let's start by labeling one of these 3 angles and each of these 3 sides. Out of these 3 angles, let's pick this one and let's label it. Now, we don't know the measure of this angle, so let's label it as phi. So this angle measures 5 degrees. But what is phi? Phi is simply a Greek letter created by the ancient Greeks. Now let's label each of these 3 sides. Well, the side opposite to angle phi is called the opposite. The side next to angle phi is called the adjacent. And finally, this last side is called the hypotenuse. So, SOHCAHTOA defines 3 different ratios that exist between the sides of this right angle triangle. Opposite over the hypotenuse, opposite over adjacent, and the adjacent over the hypotenuse. We call these 3 ratios sine, cosine, and tangent, or for short, sine, cos, and tan. So let's start by looking at the sine of angle phi. The sine of angle phi is equal to the ratio of the measurement of the opposite side over the measurement of the hypotenuse, like this. Now, what about the cosine of angle phi? Well, the cosine of angle phi is equal to the ratio between the measurement of the adjacent over the hypotenuse, like this. Now, let's look at the tangent of angle phi. The tangent of angle phi is equal to the ratio between the opposite side over the adjacent side, like this. So, in a right angle triangle, there are 3 different ratios. So, in a right angle triangle, there are 3 different ratios that exist between the sides: sine, cosine, and tangent. And to make it a little easier to remember these ratios, mathematicians came up with a cool word: SOHCAHTOA. So stands for sine, which is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Ca stands for cos, or cosine, which is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And finally, toa, which stands for tangent, which is equal to the opposite over the adjacent.
Oh, that makes sense. I think I understand how to find out how tall the skyscraper is. Let's try and solve 2 problems together.